Waar is hy?
Right. So, waar's ek nou? Right. Kom ons gaan na die bladsy toe.
Daar kom Janko Zeman.
Okay.
Ons
Het iemand hom Hallo Janko.
Hallo.
Het iemand hom toegelaat daarso?
Nee, jy het, ek dink nou net.
Okay. Ja, ek weet nie iemand ek het hom nie toegelaat nie. Iemand anders te moes, maar ek wil weet hoe hulle dit reg gekry.
Ek het net vir hom gesê admit.
Ja, so
Okay,
jy het
Pieter.
As jy
Okay,
met
goed.
actually inteken dan net jy daardie permissions, net die guests het nie. Okay.
Okay. Nee, 100%, want Martie kan dit nie
Sy
nie
moet
doen nie.
inteken. Sy moet ingeteken wees en nie net as in die browser join sonder om met
Okay,
Microsoft ingeteken wees nie.
Okay, great. Hoorie so, ek wil nou nie vir die ouens wat betyds is sacrifice vir die ouens wat laat is nie. So ek gaan maar begin.
Wat is reg?
Tough luck as die ou nie kan betyds wees nie, dan kan ons nie die wat betyds is opoffer nie, dat ek net die regte bladsy nou hier kry. Right. Ons gaan kyk na die transformer nou kom ons doen dit in Engels vir diegene wat in Engels is.
Ekskuus, sorry Henry. Wie ook al kan en sien dat daar iemand oppop wat wil inkom, obviously kan ek hulle nie admit nie. Kan julle hulle net asseblief as jy so gaaf sal wees, want as Henry begin dan gaan hy nie oplet daarna nie en
Hy kan maar net aangaan.
Anders moet ek nou deur 'n mission.
Dis fyn.
Okay, dankie. Sorry.
Okay, baie dankie julle. Right, the transformer is in the name that it transforms. So it tells us that it transforms something to something else. Now in this case it would be electricity. And the transformer only works with AC. And how it works is you've got two wounds. Now if you apply a voltage to a coil, you create a magnetic field. If you remove that voltage, it collapses. And if you reapply the voltage, the magnetic field reappears. If you move another wind close to that wound, then you would cause a magnetic field to cut through the other side when you apply a voltage. And when you remove the voltage, the opposite happens. So if you apply an alternating current, which tells you that it switches between positive and negative all the time, then you will have a constant magnetic field that appears and disappears. As a matter of fact, appears in the opposite way. So you've got a continuous induction. It induces electricity or current. It moves the electrons. Now you've got in a transformer, you've got a primary winding that generally refers to, in a diagram, to the side where you put power in, and the secondary winding is where the power then comes out, that has been transformed and gets used in a circuit or whatever the case may be. Now, between the primary side and the secondary side, there's a ratio, and that ratio is directly proportional to the voltage. So if you have a transformer with, say, for argument's sake, one wound on the primary side and two winds on the secondary side, it will be a step up transformer because the secondary side's voltage is higher than the primary side, and vice versa. If you have a transformer with, say, 10 wounds on the primary side and 10 on the 20 on the primary and 10 on the secondary, it would be a step down transformer because the secondary side has less than the primary side. So that is the basic functioning of a transformer. Now, a person, and that's why I stick to the book, is because it's a rabbit hole. You can go into the finer nitty-gritty of the electrons moving and why they're moving and how they're moving, but we don't need to know that. We must just know that it works. Here they tell you about the turns ratio. So 5-to-1 would be a step down transformer, and 3-to-1, 1-to-3 would be a step up transformer. Now, generally, on a mains transformer, you will have, I think, very close to 1,000 turns, and then on your secondary side, you'll have a lot less turns, so that you can get, for argument's sake, 12 volts. But there's other factors that determines the amount of wounds that you use on the primary side, because you don't want to create a short circuit with your wire. And that's why there's a reasonable calculation that is not within our scope in order to design a transformer. But what's important to us is we must know whether it's a step up or a step down, and which side is the primary side and which side would be the secondary side of a transformer. Here they explain the ratios, and there's a couple of formulas here, but I'm not gonna do them now. We'll do them in the question, because without values it doesn't really make sense. But the primary voltage on the primary side, they should have made that a divided by sign as well, because this is actually exactly the same. So the voltage on the primary side divided by the voltage on the secondary side is exactly the same as the number of turns, or directly proportional to the number of turns on the primary side divided by the number of turns on the secondary side. And then they've converted this to make it a bit easier to use. So in this sketch here, they've got 240, so they've got a ratio of 20-to-1. This doesn't mean that there's only 20 turns on the primary side. This only tells you that there's 20 times more turns in comparison with the secondary side. So for every 20 turns you've got on this side, you have 1 turn on the secondary side. Now, although there's nothing in between here, they, like you've learned with inductors, if you put ferrite metal in your coil, it makes it a lot more efficient. And that's why with the transformer, you want to carry as much as possible of your magnetic field into the secondary coil. So you'll use typically iron, which they use in the older transformers, and they've got a graphite core that they use on the high frequency transformers that makes them a lot more efficient. But once again, that's not within our scope to look at switch mode power supplies and their efficiency. So what basically happens here, we know that the ratio tells us this is a step down transformer. We've got AC, the symbol for AC, 240 volts coming in on this side. And we know that this is the ratio. So if we've got, we can divide that by 20, a quick way of calculating it. but they've got a very nice formula for us so that we can keep ourselves busy with that. Now, I'm going to believe that they have done the calculation correctly. So unless you guys want me to get the calculator out, but this is not difficult. This is straightforward maths. It's not like that, the scientific notation that you've got to know the calculator. I mean, this you can do on a normal standard calculator. So what it basically means is that 1 times 240 is 240 divided by 20, which I just said, gives you 12 volts. So that would typically be a illustration of a 12-volt transformer. If anybody doesn't understand...
Sorry, I just want to make sure that formula doesn't have any specific order that you got to put in. You can just go directly left to right, like as it is, like that, correct?
Well, yes, yeah, because in this particular case, where they ask you to calculate the voltage on the secondary side, is where voltage S, which would be secondary, equals voltage primary divided by, times the number of turns on the secondary side divided by the amount of turns on the primary side. So the P is for primary and the S is for secondary. And the same with the voltages. And the N represents the number of turns.
Okay. I was just making sure there's no specific special order that can affect that formula in any way. But if it's as it is there, then...
If they give you, obviously, instead of 240 volt, they give you the ratio and the secondary voltage, then you have to manipulate your formula in order to calculate the primary side. So then you would have V voltage primary over here and V secondary on the other side of the equal sign. Okay, here they say a transformer with more turns on the secondary side than on the primary side, called a step-up transformer, and then logically the other way around would be a step-down transformer. In most cases, we will work with step-down transformers. If you work with antennas, for instance, your end-fed antenna has got a 49:1 ratio or a 1:49 ratio. So that's a step-up transformer, and if you connect that to your radio and you transmit and you touch the end of that antenna, you will know about it. And that's why a person's got to be careful, because you've got very high voltages on the antenna and high currents as well. Same story with the current ratio. Exactly the same formula, just with current. I is current. So I divided by I secondary divided by I primary is directly proportional to the number of turns of the primary divided by the number of turns in the secondary side. And then once again, they've manipulated that formula so that it makes a little bit more sense. And they did basically exactly the same calculation. The current flowing in the primary side is 1 amp. The current in the secondary side can be found from 1 times 20 divided by 1 amp, which is on the primary side. And that is 20 20 amps on the secondary side. Now, I personally prefer the wattage. So we know that V times I or P equals V times I. Now, I always say to people, watts is watts. So if you have 20 watts on the primary side, you have 20 watts on the secondary side. So if your voltage is lower, your current will be higher. And if your voltage is higher, your current would be lower. Now, a very good example of that is your mains supply from the power station. They would generate the voltage or the electricity at a specific voltage, and then they put it through a step-up transformer that steps it up to 133,000 volts. And then they use these huge transmission lines to the power station where they step it down to 44,000 volts. And then they once again send it through lower, smaller cables to your substations. And that is the ones that we have here in the East that keeps on burning, is those substations. So then over there, the 40 or the 33,000 volts, some places it's 40,000 and some places it's 33,000 volts. Comes in, goes through a transformer, and it steps it down to 11,000 volts. So every time they step the voltage down, the current gets bigger. And the 11,000 volts go to these green boxes you see in the street, the mini substations. And over there they convert it to 240 volts, or then 400 volt 3-phase. And as they convert it down, the reason why they use such a high voltage is because of the low current. So they can use a thinner cable over a huge distance, and your losses are less. And as they get closer to the end point where it's going to get used, they step it down all the way. So your radio uses, like, say, you need a 30 amp power supply at 12 volts. And you can calculate then how much the actual current is that your power supply must. Let's quickly calculate here. 30 amp
I got
times
a
12.
small question, just
3
once you got
yeah,
a second.
okay, go.
Is there a power loss factor also across transformers to be
There is,
that
and we'll
one
get
can go
to.
into?
There is. They
Okay.
talking about a transformer is between. I read somewhere they say 95 to 99% efficient, but in my head I've got 90 to about 98% efficient.
That's also what I
Be-
said.
yeah, so there is losses in the transformer, but for our purpose, it's so little that we're gonna not worry about that. Yeah, they say typical power transformers are better than 95% efficient. They haven't seen the Chinese ones, which so you lose about 5%, and I'll explain to why that is. And I couldn't. They asked the question in the questions, but they never say anything about eddy currents. So what happens is, and I've got an example here of. I must just find it now.
And it's also more efficient to rather step down than to step up necessarily the whole time.
No, it doesn't matter. It's the same.
Or just
In
the
the
cabling
transform.
side that it's the cable factors that affects on the input and output that creates that extra concerns that it's easier to downstep.
Yeah, so what happens is, no, it doesn't matter in a transformer to step up or down, doesn't matter. It purely it purely depends on the amount of wounds on your secondary side. Now, the reason, this is what they call IE or EI core. So the E and the I. Now, the reason why they've broken this up, if you have this thing continuous, you actually create another circuit over here. So you induce a magnetic field, which then cuts through this section, and you have a current over there as well, eddy currents. And that is the losses. So they have, after a lot of research, they realize that if they break it up and they make it a bunch of loose plates, it's much more efficient than a solid piece of steel. And then, of course, they realize that if they go to toroidal transformers, which I see they don't have in the book here, but that's the ones that looks like a donut, that they give us a donut here somewhere. Let's just see, is it
Well, that's a
toroidal?
change, yeah.
Yeah, there's a toroidal transformer. So they realized that if they wound the wires around like that, the iron core, it's even more efficient. But we don't need to know. We just need to know these things exist. Works on the same principle. Your primary wound voltage is directly proportional to the amount of wounds on the secondary side. So check everything is okay there. Go back to the book.
Like imagining, like, if depending on the amount of coils you have on the one side, you got the energy, and depending if you got more coils on than the primary, the secondary will pick up more of the magnetic field. But if you got less than the primary, it will pick up less of the magnetic field. So you're actually doing a step down then. It's like two magnetic fields that needs to pick up or transfer over from one coil to another.
Well, that's what I said right at the beginning. It's like two magnetic fields continuously changing, cutting through the secondary coil. But there is a big calculation that goes into the to calculate the amount of a magnetic field you need in order to saturate your secondary wounds. But we're not going to do that because we are not going to be transformer engineers. We want to be radio amateurs. So here you can calculate the impedance ratio. Once again, we know that we know the voltage, we know the current, and because we know those things, we can calculate the resistance, or in this case, the impedance value. Okay, resistor of the primary wound can we also calculate. Same thing apply once again, divided by I, 240 ohms. So yeah, if you go and this is in theory. If you're actually gonna do this, you're gonna have high current through that transformer in reality. Okay, here's just another way of doing the basically same thing, but they don't ask this, so I don't know why they confuse us with that. Let's go to the applications. Transformers are widely used in amateur radio. Absolutely, that's true. The most obvious example is the old style power supplies, which we use a lot on HF because the newer switch mode power supplies tend to be very noisy. So we prefer the old-fashioned transformer power supplies, and they are reasonably easy to build. They say the mains voltage is 240 volts, and it must be transformed to 12 volt DC, which is more or less correct. And then, of course, what I said just now is they also used in matching your antenna. So you can use the transformer to, for instance, match your 200 ohm aerial to a 50 ohm radio. And most radios are 50 ohms. So you'll always want to match to 50 ohms. And that's basically what they say there.
Is dit nou waar die balloon inkom?
Dis korrek, ja, dis die Bylin of die is
Bylin.
maar ja, dis nou eintlik maar 'n transformer en jy kry verskillendes, jy kry 'n 1-to-1, dan kry jy 'n 1-to-4 en 'n soos ek gebruik 'n 1-to-9 en 'n 1-to-48 en 'n 49 en 'n 1-to-64 ook.
Sure.
En ja, dis maar om die impedansie te match. Kyk, as jy nou jou aerial gaan vat, in die middel van die aerial is daar amper niks voltage of so met ander woorde, as jy nou byvoorbeeld 'n inverted V maak en jy gaan meet sy impedansie in die middelpunt waar jou feed point is, dan is hy presies 50 ohm en jy voer hom op die nulmerk. Maar as jy op sy punte gaan meet, dan is daar enorme voltages daar. So in die middel is die stroom en die punte is die voltage. So as jy nou 'n antenne op die punt wil voer, dan moet jy daai voltage van peak to peak swaai sodat die stroom in die middel sit en dis hoekom jy 'n gewone transformer gebruik of 'n Bylin gebruik met 'n baie hoë ratio as jy met 'n end-fed antenna werk in vergelyking met 'n antenna wat in die middel gevoer word. As jy byvoorbeeld 'n dipole antenna het waar die radiale reguit is, kan jy byvoorbeeld 'n 4-to-1 gebruik. Op 'n inverted V kan jy hoef nie noodwendig een eerste gebruik nie, maar jy kan daarso 'n 1-to-1 gebruik. En dis byvoorbeeld waar hulle daai ding nou toepas. Jy gaan nooit regtig hoef dit te bereken om te kyk hoeveel turns moet jy draai nie. Dis pretty standard. Hulle het omtrent al die cores al uitgewerke, getoets, getraai en twee op mekaar gestek en ek dink is 'n 3-to-7 turn ratio. Nee, 3-to-14 turn. So 3 turns aan die een kant en 14 aan die ander kant. Maar ons sal daarby uitkom. Ek sal miskien 'n Bylin, ons sal 'n Bylin saamvat, dan kan ek vir julle wys Saterdag. Sodat julle kan verstaan
hoe dit werk. So enige motors hierso die wind om iets in met windings te probeer te bereken nie onder andere nie, want
ja, nee, ons gaan nie motors bou nie. Kom ons kyk net hierso. Okay, hierdie is maar nou net current transforming, also load resistance, primary winding. Right. Hierdie hulle vra nie hierdie om dit te bereken en dit nie, maar kom ons kyk hierso na die vraag. Right. The principle of operation of a transformer is based upon
die electromagnetic induction.
Dis reg, ja, electromagnetic induction.
Ek soek net magnete.
Okay. Transformer transfer energy from one coil to another by means of
Magic. Inductive coupling.
Inductive coupling, dit is korrek, ja. A transformer with a turn is a step up, that's right. Okay, dan hierso. het ek nou vir ons by vraag 4 het
Het
ek
ons
nou 'n
vraag
plan.
3 gemis?
Of
Ons
03
is
is 48.
vraag vraag 3 Ryan is ons baie vinnig verby. Ek dink dis of Janko of Pieter wat gesê het dis 'n step up wat reg is.
Pieter.
Pieter, ja.
Dankie is gemute daar. Ek weet nie of hy nog daar nie.
Dit is so vinnig ek kon ons kaars gehoor het. Van laat ons dit.
Ja, ons is daai nou vinnig verby gegaan. Ek wil nou net hierdie kry. En dan ja, Pieter, jy het gesê 48, nê?
Hmm.
Okay, hierso het hulle dit nou bereken. Ek het bietjie verneek en vir die AI gevra om vir ons 'n mooi tekening te maak, dan hoef ek nie heen en weer te blaai nie, dan spaar ons tyd. So hierso het ons voltage op die secondary side is gelyk aan primêre voltage maal met die turns on the secondary side divided by the turns on the primary side, which is 12 times 4, and that is 48 volts. Number 5. Losses in the transformer are most often caused by winding resistance and it's not written in the book. I told you guys about it. And I showed eddy currents. That's right, yeah.
Eddy currents, okay.
Ja,
Wie's
so
daai
why
Eddy nou? Die neek
ek
rond
weet
die
nie.
currents.
I don't know. He's a he's a problem guy. So I don't know. I've never looked where it came
Dis
from. Why they
Murphy.
call it eddy. Yeah, it's probably
Dis
like
Murphy wat vir
Murphy.
jou wil probleme gee.
Eddy
Doen
currents.
jy 'n transformer
Ja.
dan kry jy nie dieselfde resultaat as wat jy verwag nie. Hoekom werk dit nie, hoor? Murphy.
Yeah, I was speaking to a guy once, and the umbilical coil was wound around his neck, and the umbilical cord was wound around his neck when he was born. I said to him, "Yeah, they shouldn't let the cables lie around. It's dangerous when there's kids around."
Ja.
Right. What is the turns ratio of a transformer to match an audio amplifier having an output impedance of 200 ohms to a speaker having a load of 10 ohms? Okay. Now that is something else I didn't mention. If you look at valve amplifiers, they would typically use on each channel output. They'll have a step down transformer for the input power, and then on each channel left and right they'll have an output transformer, because they work with a very high voltage on the valve itself, on the vacuum tube. So they need to bring those voltages down so that it can match the voltages or then the impedance that the speaker works on. So that is what they basically ask there in question number 6. Now, once again, I've gone here and I asked them to make a nice illustration for us so that we can turns ratio, the n number of turns equals impedance ratio. So it's 200 divided by 10 squared, or the square root of, and then it's 20, the square root of 20, and that gives us 4.472, which
I got
is
4.47.
That's right, yeah. So that's the and you know what, a person you'll have the formula on the formula sheet. So I want to emphasize again, use your calculator. You've got enough time. There's more than enough time to do all of these things properly. So
just learn the descriptions and how the formula looks like.
Well, that's it. So if you
because I don't give descriptions on the formula sheet.
No, they don't tell you. You must be able to identify the formula, but at least you don't have to learn the whole formula. And what some of the guys do is, instead of manipulating the formula, they do the straight calculation 4 times because they've got enough time. So they calculate all 4 and see when do they get to the right answer. So that's the other way of, instead of manipulating your formula, you just do the calculation a couple of times over and over. Then question number 7, we mustn't skip. Operating principle of a transformer may be described as.
Mag ons ook die vraag sien?
Is hulle mooi vraag. Okay, the operating principle of a transformer may be described as.
Varying electric field intersecting a conductor and creating a potential difference.
Varying magnetic
Hey.
field intersecting a conductor and creating a potential
Dis A.
difference. Dit is definitief A, ja.
Yeah, it's not an electric field. I'm not sure where you're getting electric fields from.
Magnetic fields.
Anyway.
Varying current, ja, dis definitief A. So dit is korrek daarso. En dan nommer 8, in an impedance matching transformer has a turns ratio of 10:1. If a 500 ohm microphone is connected to the winding with a lesser turn, it would.
510.
Okay, kom ons kyk wat sê ons
Dis 50 B.
50 kilo ohm, en hierso is die berekening. Ek wys hom net so rukkie. I'm just showing it so that it gets captured on the video, so that if somebody ever wants to go back and see how it's done, they can pause the YouTube video and then get themselves up to speed. Right. A transformer has 1,200 turns on the primary side and 30 turns on the secondary side. If it is connected to a supply of 240 volts, the secondary voltage will be. Right. Go
Ja,
to the
220 gedeeld deur 40.
30.
40 gedeeld deur 40 is 6. Wag, wys vir my weer die ander ding. Ja, ek is ook by 6 uitgekom.
Dis reg, ja. So dis jou secondary turns over your primary turns, which then equals 240 times 0.025 equals 6 volts, yes.
Is dit
Right.
verkeerd om te gaan dink as 'n mens hom so sien soos hierdie manier, skus, ek wil net sien so die vraag te sien. Vraag is dit, as alles dit soos 1200 teenoor 30 sê, so as jy die verhouding probeer uit te werk, sê 1200 gedeeld deur 30,
40
kry jy
tot 1.
40, so is 1 tot 40 tot 1. So dan kan jy
Ja.
240 gedeeld deur
Gedeeld deur
40 en dit
Dis
gee
wat
vir
ek
jou weer die
gedoen het.
output.
Ja, dis wat ek gedoen het.
240 gedeeld deur 40.
30. Ag ja, 40, ja, skus.
Okay, ja, dit werk ook. Dit gee vir jou 6 volts. Dis korrek, ja.
Want dis
Dus
basies
dit-
wat mos is. Dis 'n
Dit is
verhouding, dis
basies,
twee
dit is 'n
coils.
verhouding, that's it. Ja, dis dieselfde as wat
En-
jy petrol meng vir jou 2/50.
En as dit die omgekeerde was, dan die primary en secondary, dan sou jy net weer maal met 40.
Korrek, ja. Dit is reg, ja. 5-to-1 transformer has a current of 1 amp flowing in the primary winding. The current flowing in the secondary winding is
5 amp.
Ek moet
That would be
gekyk.
0.2. It's going
5
to a
to 1.
smaller ratio. You're gonna have to do the opposite if you had to do is like if you had to
1
time
gedeelde
dink-
5.
0.2 maal met 5 gee vir jou 1 amp as jy hom weer terugvat.
As jy
Die
1
omgekeerde, die
ampere
skoof.
10
op die
B.
as jy 1 ampere op jou primary winding het, dan gaan jy minder windings op die secondary ene hê, so
Ja.
Kom
Maar ek het hom
ons kyk.
teruggevat. Ek het hom teruggevat. Omgekeerde. As jy die die stroom sou omgekeerd vat.
5 amp. Hoe het jy by 5 amp gekom?
nee, ek
Nie
wil dat
5
die masjien dieselfde vraag vra.
Dit moet
Nee.
200 milliamp wees.
Okay, kom ons ek gaan hom weer hier ingooi. Dat hom net weer vir ons crunch.
Ja, ek trust nie Gemini nie.
Ek het redelike goeie resultate gehad met hom tot nou toe.
Ons moet daarso by. Dis die laaste vraag.
Okay, as hy weer dieselfde vraag uitkom, dan gaan ons hom miskien in Grok ook ingooi.
Ja, nou praat jy.
Kyk, hy's redelik adamant
op 5 amp.
op 5 amp. En ek wil nou nie met julle lelik wees nie, maar as jy 1 amp op die primary het, en dis 'n step down transformer, kom ons sê vir argumentsonthaalwe, daar gaan 10 volt op die, onthou ek het vir julle gesê wat is wat, nee, aan albei kante. So, as ons kom ons sê 50 volt aan die een kant het, dan gaan ons 10 volt aan die ander kant hê. Julle stem saam, nê?
Ja.
Okay. So ons het 50 volt op die primêre kant teen 1 ampere. 50 maal
Wag, ek weet wat ons die fout gemaak as jy 10 amp dan by die primary insit, gaan jy 50 amp by die secondary
maal.
uitkry. Want hy's vers
dis reg, ja.
die
So
amp
as ons
Hy's eintlik 'n step.
dieselfde as volts.
Nie 'n step down nie.
5
In die
amp is
amps,
reg.
in amps nie.
dis reg, ja. So 5 amp is reg. Maar ek wou
Ja.
gehad het ons moet soek vir die fout wat ons gemaak het. Sodat ons weet dat ons dit
dink aan volts.
Ja, so onthou dit, maar 'n maklike manier, weet daar's 2 maniere om dit te doen, soos wat hulle dit hierso verduidelik het. En dan kan jy jouself toets, want wat is wat. So jy kan die wattage aan die een kant uitwerk en die wattage aan die oorvat aan die ander kant toe en hom dan deur die stroom of deur die volts deel. En dan gaan jy die ander of die volts of die stroom kry hange wat jy mee gedeel het. So daai is dan korrek.
Okay.
Right, daai het ons lekker gedoen. Okay, en dan is die
met 16 toe.
dis reg, ja, maar nou ek wil net so gou-gou hierso verbygaan want semiconductor
nog medies nodig nie.
ja, al wat jy hier hoef te weet is laat 'n gewone diode laat krag net een kant toe gaan. As jy die krag ander kant toe inkoppel, dan kan dit nie deurgaan nie. So met ander woorde, die krag kan net hier soos die kant toe gaan. As jy daai battery omdraai, dan gebeur daar niks nie. Dis 'n gewone diode. Nou 'n Zener diode, daai is die simbool vir 'n normale diode. Anode, so die krag kan hier inkom en dit kan deur hom vloei daai kant toe. Dit kan nie van hierdie kant af terugvloei nie. Dit is wat hulle tipies gebruik vir rectifying diodes. 'n Zener diode, jy sien hierso vir 'n reverse bias is baie hoog. Sy deurbreek voltage is baie keer hier by 1000 volt rond as jy hom verkeerd omkoppel. krag kan nie deur tot op 1000 volt nie. En dan jou forward bias, julle onthou die 0.6 volt wat Louis van gepraat het.
Ja.
Dan as jy voltage toepas op 0.6 volt, dan maak jy die diode oop en dan hardloop die krag lekker deur om so. Reverse kan hy tot 1000 volt van hulle hanteer, maar hy het 'n rating. So elke diode het 'n rating wat jy sê wat is sy maximum reverse bias. Half-wave rectifier is daardie ding. Met ander woorde, as die krag soontoe omgaan, kan dit deur en as hy omdraai is die circuit nie voltooi nie. En daar is jou grafiek, een helfte gaan deur op
Met so as 'n sinusgolf te sien maak dit altyd baie makliker.
Dis reg, ja. Nou as jy die ding nou gaan 'n cap opsit, dan charge hy nou die cap op en as hy nou die smooth hom, ja, en dan as die voltage nou reverse current is waar die ding oop is, dat hy nie gelei nie, dan dra hierdie ou nou die vrag totdat die krag weer terugkom en dit is hoekom jy daar die ripples kry wat Louis ook gewys het. Hierdie is 'n baie stupid manier om dit te teken, dit maak dit onnodig kompleks. Ek hou meer van die vierkantjie van die, maar ons sal daarby. Ja,
hom gaan uitprint en hom net hier gaan inplak in die boek.
Ja. So as jy nou 'n full wave rectification doen, dan vat jy die gedeelte wat onder sal verbygaan, want relatief tot, alhoewel ons sê dis negatief, maar relatief tot 0 is daai ook plus. Dis net aan die kant toe om. So as ons hom nou opbring boontoe, dan het ons 'n plus en 'n plus en 'n plus en 'n plus en dan sit jy 'n cap by en dan het jy nou 'n redelike smooth besigheid. Zener diode. Okay, ek gaan julle dit vertel. Zener diode is eintlik 'n klomp diodes agterste voorom. So wat hulle gedoen het is hulle het 'n string diodes hier wat hier deur gelei. So jou eerste diode se deurbreek voltage is 0.6, 1.2 en so gaan dit elke keer met 600 op. En jy sal sien as jy na jou Zener diode se waardes kyk, werk dit presies uit op inkremente van 0.6 volt. Omdat dit basies as jy twee diodes in 'n ry sit, is jou deurbreek voltage 1.2 volt en jy kan hom dan ook 'n 1.2 volt Zener noem, maar sy wat noem jy die bloody ding? This
schematic
symbol is like this with the two skew lines that indicates that this is a Zener. So a 5 volt Zener you don't get, it will be a 5.1 volt Zener.
That's interesting. The constants playing out.
No. En dan die ander ding is die VariCap. Is daar Engelse mense vandag hierso? Is there any English speaking people? I just want to make sure. The VariCap, when you apply a voltage to it, the gap actually becomes bigger, and in a tuned circuit, by changing the capacitance, you can actually change the frequency. And I did explain it that they use it on tuners. Typically, all the new radio tuners would use something like that. So there's the three type of diodes. It's the rectifying diode, the Zener diode for regulation, to regulate voltages, and your VariCap to tune frequencies, to change frequencies with. Right now, Louis didn't do the switching, but what basically happens is this thing, the moment this voltage on this side's higher than this side, this thing switches off. So that's the principle of a switching supply. So they'll typically have this thing let the voltage through, and then it switches off, and then something else happens further on, and they double the voltage, or you get voltage doublers and things like that. I don't know why this was not part of the. Okay. Oh yeah, the LED light emitting diode. So there's 4 that you got to know of in the LED, the light emitting diode. I wanna freak out when people come into the shop here and ask me they're looking for LEDs. There's nothing like that. It's a LED, it's a light emitting diode. Hallo oom, ek soek LEDs. Moet jy sit hier so goed.
Gee hom net die lood aan. Hy sê
Ja.
studeer lood.
Soldeer met, ja.
Yeah. So yeah, please don't ever go into a place and ask for LEDs. It shouts beginner. PN junction. Okay, those things are all been handled. You've done the questions. I can remember we had a bit of a hard time with the questions, so let's go through it again. The forward bias diode junction would be okay, good. The silicon diode 600 reverse to the forward bias voltage, né? Julle stem saam met my. Dis daai 600 millivolt wat ek julle van vertel het.
Okay.
Dis reg, ja.
Okay.
Which of the following components is intended to only operate in the reverse bias condition?
Zeners?
Zener diodes. That's right. Polarized capacitors, eh? The term VZ is commonly used to describe the Zener diodes regulating voltage. So that's right.
12 volt of 5 volt of wat ook al.
Correct, ja.
Jy het gesê dit word gemeet in 600 millivolt incremente.
Dis reg, ja, tipies vir 'n silikon diode, nê? As jy 'n germanium diode kry, dan is dit so 300 millivolt, maar germanium diodes, germanium is giftig. So hulle het alle germanium transistors en diodes en alles verbied. Hulle mag nie meer gebruik word nie. Dis hulle het opgehou om dit te vervaardig. So die meeste hier en daar gaan jy nog 'n germanium ding kry, maar ja, hulle mag dit nie meer gebruik. Dit word nie meer vervaardig nie. So in ons wêreld bestaan daar net silikon diodes. Maar weet maar net daar was germanium ook en hulle forward bias voltage was laer geweest.
5C?
And that's also the metal that eats through aluminum. Aluminium. You don't want to put it on an airplane.
Ja, so jy het gesê 5, dis reg. 5C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diodes are used to divert signals, detect
Regulate.
modulation. No, it's not. It doesn't regulate DC voltage. It diverts signals. Kom ons ek is net seker maak, want regulate, jy het bietjie intelligensie nodig om te regulate en 'n diode is hopeloos te onnoosel daarvoor. So kom ons gaan vra
tot 'n mate
vir ons baie intelligente masjien hierso wat
alles
wêreldkennis gaan query.
Maar ek is verkeerd.
Okay, wat kyk vir regulation, daar vertel hy sommer vir jou hoekom.
O, hier staan, sorry, ek het diodes gelees en nie Zener diodes nie. Ek het my vraag sleg gelees. So daar sou ek 'n punt vir myself weggegooi het want ek het die vraag nie gelees nie. Okay, what function does a full wave bridge rectifier circuit serve?
Yeah.
Rectification, dis reg, ja. A circuit which only allow half of an AC waveform to pass through is called a half wave rectifier, ja. 4-diode circuit to provide full wave rectification DC from is called a
rectifier.
bridge rectifier, or another name they use is a full bridge rectifier. Definitely not a dummy load. The area of a diode junction where no free holes or electrons exist is called the depletion region.
Ja.
Okay, want dis die gedeelte, dis waar die vericap, as jy die voltage op hom toepas, dan word daai depletion region groter. As jy die diode reverse bias, dan word die depletion region groter. So dit jy moet onthou dis daai depletion region wat daar niks is nie. And PN type semiconductor refers to a diode. Right, and nou is ons by 'n power supply. Dis nou hier waar dit nou begin lekker raak. It's here where it becomes lekker. So the English people don't know what's lekker. It's got big problems. Ja. Marty wants to say something.
Ekskuus julle, ek wil net vir julle sê, soos hierdie vrae wat julle nou deurgegaan het oor die diodes. As daar nie in die handboek se voorbeelde verskriklik handboek se vrae vreeslik baie somme is nie, dan kan julle maar so 'n soort van weet, hulle gaan nie vreeslik baie somme vra nie, anders sou daar gewees het. En die somme wat daar is, as hulle dit eenvoudig as 'n voorbeeld gebruik, dan vra hulle dit ook so eenvoudig in die eksamen. Hulle gaan nie weird waardes goeders insit nie. Amen.
Okay.
Okay, daar het julle dit. Right, a simple power supply. So let's just quickly have a look here. 240 volt comes in, that's a symbol for a fuse. Got a transformer, 20 to 1, so we know this is going to be a 12 volt transformer. We hope. Is it reg? Ja, dit is mos reg, ja. And we've got a bridge rectifier here, full bridge rectifier. Now we know that a inductor, that he doesn't like change. And the capacitor also, you know, it wants to, once it's charged up, it wants to stay in that position. So the moment the voltage drops over here, this oak gives voltage out to keep it stable, and same for the capacitor. Soon as the voltage starts dropping on this side, this oak that's charged up is putting power into the circuit, which smooths the supply out. You should recognize various circuit. Yeah, we've just done all of this, 12 volt AC. So basically there's not much to this circuit. I mean, we know the voltage ratio, so we've got an idea that what's going to come out here. But now this is the big but.
We measure
this reg, ja. We measure here, and it's an RMS value. So the peak voltages is slightly higher. So when we want to calculate, if we have a 12 volt transformer on this side, the actual voltage after rectification and smoothing is going to be 12. Sorry, I'm just doing some maths over here.
Mental abuse the humans.
So we're going to measure 16.9, say 17 volts at the output here. Now, somewhere in this description, we should get to that. Here they start with it, RMS value. So the RMS is, wrong calculator.
Sal dit nie 'n goeie idee wees om Zener diodes so daai ding te koppel as jy 'n suiwer 12 volt soek nie?
Ja, ons gaan nou daarby kom. Soos ek sê, these things are now stuff that happens. We're getting closer to the real world now. So, what do they say? I think it's the square root of 2 over 2, is it?
Wat wil jy uitwerk?
RMS. Yes, that's correct. So RMS is the square root of 2 over 2. So that gives you that 0.707, and we have worked with this. So this is the RMS value. So the opposite of that, or now I've lost that word, but this thing of that thing is that. So if you times the 12 volts by that, no man, come on. You get that answer. Now, here they explain to us that the voltage out is actually higher than 12 volts. Remember that AC voltages are normally, that wasn't me, that was my mouse. AC voltages are normally specified in RMS, which is about 71% of the peak voltage of the sinusoidal wave. The peak voltage is some 41% higher. Nou
Ek
hierdie
dink
ouens is
daai wave het 'n therapist nodig as hy sinusoidal is.
ja, nee, maar ek dink hierdie ouens was op iets wat ek weet nie hoekom. Kyk, jy kan nie meer as 100% kry nie. So 71 plus 41 is 112%. En dit is 'n bietjie styf. So ek dink daai ons kyk net hierso. It's 70%. So that should be 70% and 30% higher than RMS. Because otherwise you have more than 100%, which is impossible. So the peak voltage is some 30% higher than the RMS value. Marty is saying, so I'm just going to quickly entertain her math over there.
29%.
Sy sê ek lees die sin verkeerd. Kom ons draai weer. Voltage out is actually higher than 12 volts. Remember that AC voltage are normally specified as RMS, which is about, I'm going to read what they say here, 71% of the peak voltage of the sinusoidal wave. So what they basically say is that the 12 that we see here is only 71% of the 71% of the 17 volts. So that's where
the AC kant.
Ja.
So die 240 as jy is 240 volt is klaar 71%. So dis eintlik meer as 240 volt.
Dis reg op die AC kant, maar ons praat nou spesifiek van die sekondêre kant waar die 12 volt uitkom.
Waar dit uitkom. Jy kom na
okay.
die conversion het jy asof
so die 17 of
12 van die
12
RMS is jou output as 'n bietjie hoër as wat
die
eintlik
41% hoër. Okay, die sin maak sin.
So is eintlik by 29% op 12 wat vir ons het gaan gee waar ons nou is in hierdie spesifieke geval.
Okay. So maar wat ons moet onthou is dat daai the square root of 2 over 2 gives us that value, so we must calculate the peak voltage from the 12 volt so that we know, because if you don't know that, you're going to be very confused. You have a 12 volt transformer, you rectify it, and suddenly you sit with 17 volt and you don't know why. That's the reason why. Okay, so dit is die calculator wegvat. Dan gaan ons terug hier. Regulated power supply. Now these power supplies like this are typically the ones that you'd buy, these little plug-in ones with the multiple voltages that you just push into the wall with a little bubble on the top. and they've got a
Mm.
slider across.
Yeah.
That's an unregulated power supply. So if you plug that power supply into the wall and you set it to 12 volts, you're going to measure 17 or whatever volts on the output side. And that is the reason why, because it's got no regulation, nothing that regulates the voltage.
Hy ken nie Kasa nie.
Dis presies, ja. So
He doesn't know how to actually make sure it does actually output what it's been selected to.
Hy's van
Ja,
China
so
af.
in the olden days, they expected the manufacturer of goods to put the necessary regulation into the device, where we didn't use regulated power supplies. You just plugged in a power supply, and it worked. And whatever you plugged in, whether it was a computer game or Atari system or whatever, the regulating circuit was inside the device, and the power supply was very simple and the device was more complex. They've now changed where your cell phone charger is actually very intelligent, but that's an example of a regulated power supply. And your laptop power supply is an example of a regulated power supply. So they basically say that this unregulated power supply will vary between 11 and 17 volt, depend on the load you put onto it. So the moment you connect something to it, the voltage will start to drop, because obviously there's internal resistance, and the higher the load, the lower the voltage. But with radios and things that we use, we don't want that. We don't like it. So that both these problems can be solved by adding a voltage regulator to a basic design. Although a Zener diode could be used as a voltage regulator, they are only suitable for low current applications. Jy sien, dit was Pieter, jy het net nou gevra vir sit 'n Zener in.
So ja, sit 'n dosyn Zeners in.
Is it okay? So what will happen there is you are going to use some. There's going to be current, and you'll have to put a resistor in to allow the voltage drop. So the resistor will heat up, the Zener will regulate, and it will work. And they do use it often like that. But you have a constant current draw over the power supply, which makes it very inefficient.
It
So
drains the battery. Okay.
it drains the battery, and it's a very inefficient way of doing it. And that is where they come with your voltage regulator. Now, for some reason, this is a center tap transformer, which they basically do a half-wave regulation on both sides. A lot of the power supplies use this particular configuration. So you got your sine wave that's been bent right over here that bounces like that, and then you put your cap, which smooths that out. And then this is typically the LM78 series regulators are probably the most common used regulator.
Jou center tap dink ek gaan 'n minder van 'n ripple hê, want onthou elke diode wat jy insit het 'n 600 millivolt activation. En as jy hom center tap, dan sny jy twee anodes in die middel uit, so dis 'n 1.2 volt drop wat jy uitsny as jy center tap vang. Is ek reg? Hallo?
Hy verdwyn.
Henry? Praat met ons.
Hallo.
Ek kan jou nog hoor.
Ja. Nou,
Ja.
ons kan op sy skerm sien.
En daar val hy af.
Hulle daarvan
Dat
af.
het
Hy moes
verdrop.
connectie verloor het.
Janko, is jy nog wakker?
Seker ook nie.
Is ja,
Ek
Luister
het
jy
jou
daarom
nog
na
nie
al die
veel gesien
nonsens?
daar.
skaars.
Skaars.
Dankie, jy's te stil. Ek hoor jou nie
Ja, ek
veel
weet.
praat nie. Jy's chip stil.
Ek dink die krag het getrip by hulle. O, internet issue.
Ja, maar kyk hulle het inverter en alles, so ek glo nie dit sou vir hulle klaar wees nie. So wie gaan Saterdag?
Ons sal seker gaan, ek weet nie.
Die koning gaan ten minste nog aan.
Martie. Admit vir Martie. Welkom met welkom.
Sorry daarvoor.
Nee.
Die
Die koning gaan nog aan.
Wat wil ek sê?
Right, en dit vir my sovereignty waar, daar's ek ook terug. Hoor julle my weer? Wag,
Ja,
ek moet ook-
ek het 'n eureka moment gehad toe julle krag verloor het daarso. Ek dink
Ja.
en help my of as ek reg of nie. As jy center tap op die winders,
Ja,
dan sny jy daai twee diodes uit, want as jy na jou golfie kyk, dan het hy mos daai 600 millivolt op en die 600 millivolt af, wat jy dan 1.2 volt, jy weet, jy verloor nie dit sodra jy center tap nie, want jy het twee minder diodes.
wel in theorie dis reg, ja. So
Jou ripple lyk
en jy-
actually klaar meer smoother.
dis reg. So met ander woorde, that's why they use this configuration in a lot of power supplies. And where you have one long wound here, you can actually,
Jy
Net vir ons
wys
wys.
nie skerm meer nie.
ek wys dit nie in
Ah,
my
ja, dit dan-
skerm.
Nie meer na die
Okay.
drop nie.
Ja, ek moes oorgaan na 'n ander, dis presies dieselfde die ander aand toe Pieter ook gesê het hy het verlore geraak. Ek en hy het op dieselfde tyd afgeval en dis nou weer dieselfde storie. En ek weet
Dalk
nie
is
of
dit die
dit,
ISP wat jy het.
ja, dis nou die tweede keer wat ek moes hardloop vir 'n plan B.
Of is jy op OpenServe, Vlakvoet, LTE?
OpenServe deur Access want ek het 'n static IP hierso. So kan julle weer sien.
Ja,
Okay, cool. Right, so daar sy. So laat ek net weer my bril opsit dat ek ook sien wat hier aangaan. Right. So gaan daai ding
hoekom sal
weg.
hulle 'n 8-tot-1 gebruik en nie 'n 10-tot-1 nie? Want 42 gedeel deur en 8 maal 2 is 16, want jy gebruik die helfte van die coil. Dan sit 'n 16 tot
Ek
Ja,
betwyfel baie keer die drukwerk in die boek.
Ja, jy het baie loss of daai voltage regulator gaan ook warm word, want jy's nie meer op 12 volt nie.
Wel, hierdie voltage regulators kan oor die algemeen hanteer tot op 30 volt, maar dis 'n linear regulator, so met die gevolg is wat ook al hy moet iets maak met daai voltage verskil. Jy verstaan, so hy word basies 'n verstelbare weerstand. So dis hoekom hy in 'n T220 pakkie kom en hoekom hy op 'n heatsink gemonteer moet word en hierdie these voltage regulators are generally rated at 1 amp and then the LM317 is rated at 1.5 amp standard. And if you go up to 1.5 amp with those, you have to mount them on a heatsink, because that's one thing with all linear regulators. They compared to switch mode supplies, they're very inefficient, but they are very quiet. They ideal for audio applications, and they're still used for that. Although they're starting to get the switch mode power supplies closer to what you would typically do in a case like that. You'll use a switch mode power supply in the first section, and you'll get 15-volt out, and then you'll regulate it down. So the lower the voltage, the closer you can get to the output voltage, the better. Although you have to be 2 or 3 volts above the regulating voltage to give you a little bit of headroom. But the closer, the less the voltage drop over here, the better. The less heat you will generate. Center tap, there they say center tap on the secondary winding. So we can go and read what all of this is. Voltage in, voltage out, and ground. Say 14 volt. Yeah, this is very true. The voltage regulator, I would almost go as far as saying that it completely eliminates the ripple, because you have to have very sophisticated. You have to put a scope on it to see the ripple, and then it's very, very faint. You can't see it. So the regulator, those regulators are absolutely brilliant.
En
And they
onthou hulle
quick.
het 'n cap ingesit net om hom ook nog te smooth bo.
That's right. That's right. So any sudden changes will be absorbed by the cap, and generally you'll put another capacitor on the other side. If you go and look at the circuit diagram or the data sheet of these regulators, they have a capacitor on the secondary side as well to prevent this thing because it can go into self oscillation, which is not good. So there's a capacitor, and I'm scrolling up and down, and you guys are trying to keep up. A capacitor over here as well. So you'll always have a capacitor before the regulator, usually a big one, and then a
20
small.
en die ander een 22.
Typically over here, I would put anything from about 1,000 microfarads up
Ja.
to 10,000 mics, and
En die
over
ander een
here
220.
to 20 microfarads. The bigger the better. So I'll put a 470 even in here.
Okay.
That just makes it gives the regulator more time to react, because there won't be sudden changes on this side, and there won't be sudden changes on this side, which makes the work of the regulator a lot easier. Okay, the regulator has got 3 terminals. Ek gaan nie daardeur gaan nie. Ons kan kyk of hulle enigiets daaroor vra, maar jy moet maar net weet die regulator is daar om die ripple te reject en om nog meer te smooth. Switching power supplies use transformers to reduce the voltage, followed by a rectifier voltage regulator. Okay, yeah, so that's what they call a linear power supply, and the alternative design is a switching power supply. Yeah, instead of using a transformer to reduce the voltage, these supplies rectify the mains voltage to generate a high DC voltage. The voltage is then switched on and off, and using a high frequency solid state switch, but ultimately it also uses a transformer. So a linear power supply uses the old-fashioned transformer, where these switching power supplies would use a high frequency transformer, which are generally made out of a ferrite core or something. And the old-fashioned ones would always be mild steel center core. So this is a typical example of a switching power supply, which they will use a 1-to-1 transformer, but this switch that they have in here is actually a control circuit. So it will vary the duty factor. And it's usually got a circuit on this side that gives feedback to this circuit over here to tell
So
it
jy
we've got an
transistor gebruik vir dit.
yes, usually they used to use transistors, but they use MOSFETs now because a MOSFET is very good at switching hard on and hard off and can handle very high currents. So they'll put a MOSFET in here to do the work, have a control circuit, and they will have feedback through an optocoupler to tell this side, listen here, we need more power, or look, we've got enough here, you can slow down. Obviously, this happens very fast. I mean, I'm explaining it slowly, but I mean, it's basically instantaneous where this thing switches on and the voltage is here and it stands and idle, and it's very efficient because it's only switching when it's needed. So once again, when you make AC converted to DC, you go from RMS value to peak value. So you're sitting with 240 volt, 338 volts DC. Now, I don't know whether you guys saw that some of the Chinese equipment comes with 350 volt capacitors installed. And those capacitors back up and you replace it with a... That's right, yeah. So because that is so close to the maximum rating of that capacitor. So whenever you, especially for us that's in Pretoria, because we work on 240 volt, whenever you replace a capacitor where the value is 350 volt, you put a 400 volt capacitor in. Then your problem's solved. So now here is where the switching circuit is problematic because it switches at the frequency of 100 kilohertz. Now that's fast. So this switches on and off at 100 kilohertz. And that is what causes the noise that we all complain about. LED lights, cell phone chargers, basically laptop power supplies, basically everything that's new uses these switch mode power supplies. And there is a specification, they call it the what's the American one? Ryan, jy moet weet, wat's die Amerikaanse spesifikasie organisasie?
ROHS?
Vir hulle radio-organisering, die FCC.
Nee, FCC.
FCC, Federal Communications
That's
Commission.
right. So there's
FCC.
specifications that the device are not allowed to cause any interference, but
It's
it
on
must,
about all devices.
yeah,
Even for us. As
not
jy 'n
allowed
foon
to-
koop, dan staan dit daar so op. Hy mag nie interference gaan nie. Hy sê dit op die router, hy sê dit op alles.
Yeah, so that's the FCC rule. It's not allowed to cause interference, but it must accept all interference, even if it's undesirable. So, but the Chinese don't care. So, yeah, we as radio amateurs had a lot of fights with rubbish LED lights that come in, and we have lost hands down because people don't want to pay more for LED lights so that we can play with our radios. So basically, that is a situation that we have to accept. is that these cheap power supplies are noisy. Now, if you connect your radio, especially a HF radio, to a switch mode power supply, there's a good chance that it's going to give you uphill. If you buy a very high quality switch mode power supply, and you move it away from the radio, I know of some guys that uses the switch mode power supplies on their HF system. I couldn't get it right yet. The moment I switch between the linear power supply and the switch mode power supply, I can actually hear the difference. The purpose of this transformer is to prevent DC output from being connected to the main supply. Now, that is a very important thing, because you don't want something that's mains live. And when they just brought out TVs many years ago, some of those TV, the chassis was live, and the chassis was then, the ground of the chassis was not ground, was live, and the outside of the antenna, the shield, is part of the chassis, and guys got electrocuted because they wanted to adjust the antennas while the TV was switched on, and when he got there at the top, touches the antenna, and the electricity said, "How's it?" So then they put capacitors in line, because we know that we can calculate the cut-off frequency of a capacitor. So we want to cut out 50 hertz, but we want 400 megahertz to go through. So that's how they solve the problem with the live chassis and the people falling off roofs because they touched the antenna. So important, that's why they use the transformer. And then, of course, also the optocoupler for the feedback is to insulate the mains from the device, so that if you touch your laptop, you don't get electrocuted. There we go. We read through that. Fed into one-to-one transformer. Purpose to prevent to the mains. For the voltage on the second is half-wave rectified, and they've got a diode there, but then once again they've got a special diode there, and that would be a Schottky diode, and it works similar to a rectifying diode, and it can be classified as a rectifying diode, but it reacts to power slightly different, and they call it a Schottky or Schottky diode. And it is always used in switch mode supplies. Okay, then here they explain the whole functioning, but basically, which I just said, it dissipates very little power. It only switches on when it needs to. Works at very high frequencies, so it causes noise. Let's carry on. I don't want to waste time on things that people can read through. There they talk about RF interference. Okay, batteries. Many items of radio are powered by batteries, so radio amateurs must know a few things about them. Most batteries comprise of several cells. Now, a lot of people talk about the AA as a battery, but it's not. It's actually a cell, and then a bunch of cells in series makes up a battery. Now, individual cells normally have a voltage of between 1 and 2 volt, but now lithium, I think, is not in the book yet, so
3.33, I think.
3.7. Yeah.
3.7.
Yes, there we go.
So this book was before lithium batteries. They've got NiCad in here, and that is about 30 years old. So anyway, it's between 1 and 2 volt. lead acid cells are used in car batteries. They have a voltage of about 2 volts, which is correct. Because if you go and count the cells in a car battery, you'll see that there's 6, and then 2 times 6 is actually 12 volts. NiCad cells are generally 1.2 volt. And yeah, the battery determines how many cells is in the battery and the voltage. So, but the charging of NiCads and the charging of lead acid is completely different. Because a lead acid battery uses a constant voltage, constant current, but a NiCad battery charges to a point where it goes up in voltage and then it drops, and that you need an intelligent charger to see the drop in the voltage and then stop charging. Because if you continue to charge the NiCad battery, it will reduce voltage to the point where that it looks like a flat battery, and obviously heat up and eventually destroy itself. So you can't use a constant current, constant voltage power supply to charge NiCad batteries. You need they call it a peak detection charger. The capacity of a battery in terms, yeah,
nickel metal hydrides compare?
The NiCad had what they call the memory. So if you charge a NiCad before it's completely discharged, it will they call it it will build a memory. So whenever you recharge an NiCad, you must first completely discharge it and then charge it from scratch. Where the metal iron hydride, they got rid of the memory effect. The charging is the same. You also have a peak detection charger, and it also detects a peak. I think those specific characteristics are slightly different between the two batteries, but generally your NiCad charger has got a processor in for intelligence, and in the selection on the screen you can say I want to charge a metal iron hydride or a NiCad, and then it adapts. But you can't do it with it like a dumb car charger that you just apply a voltage. Can't charge. Even with a smart car charger, you can't charge a NiCad battery.
Because lead acids, you just charge it up until you got no current eventually anymore, and the
Correct. Yeah.
equilibrium has
So
been reached at the end of the day.
that's right. The capacity of a battery is specified in the amount of charge it can hold. Although the SI unit for charge is coulomb, batteries are always rated in amp hours. If a battery can deliver 10 amp for 2 hours, its capacity it has a capacity of 10 amp hours.
What?
No, that doesn't make sense.
No. That's
Dit moet 20
That's
amp hours
fine.
wees.
20, ja,
That's
20 amp hour.
okay. Not enough to make for the SRL.
Yeah, smaller batteries are normally specified in milliamp hours. So your, what is this, 2596 batteries, you get 2000 milliamp hours, and that's basically a 2 amp battery. It can supply 3.7 volt for theoretically an hour. Smaller batteries are normally okay. Yeah, better capacity or lower internal resistance can be achieved by connecting cells in parallel. That's true. So met ander woorde, you can double your capacity by connecting batteries in parallel. Obviously, cells with the same voltages must be used, otherwise the one will discharge the other one. Rechargeable batteries must be charged at somewhat higher voltage. That's logical because otherwise it won't charge. 12 would normally charge at 14.2 volts. The nominal voltage of a 12-volt battery or automotive electrical system is 13.8 volt. And that is the voltage that most mobile transceivers are designed for. I have not seen one that is not designed for 13.8 volt. So I can with certainty say that all my mobile radios are designed for 13.8 volt. If you have
Wat van die truckdrivers wat 24 het?
yeah, I'm getting there now. You get a step-down converter that you convert 24 volt from 24 volt to 12 volt, and then you use the 24 volt step-down voltage. Now, most trucks comes with a voltage converter built in. We were very fortunate. We bought a truck from Nissan, and they said because we're going to drive it ourselves, they'll put a radio in. So they put the an FM radio with a CD player, and they also put the voltage converter in for us. So when we connected the two-way radio, it was very easy. The voltage converter was there already. Fortunately, it had enough current to drive the transmit side of our radio. So, but yeah, 13.8 volt is correct there. The recharge rate should be carefully controlled. Charging at too high a rate results in damage to the battery. Its internal structure heats and possibly deformed. Nou om dit reg te kry met 'n loodsuursel, gaan jy 'n redelike fris power supply moet gebruik. Maar dit is redelik maklik met NiCads en daai goeters. Batteries has got what they call a C rating. So the C rating is usually the C1 is a 1-to-1, so you can charge it at the same rate as what you can discharge it. And then as the C rating goes up, the battery can be discharged faster and it can produce more current. And that's for that reason that you can't use any battery in your vape machine. You have to buy a decent battery because of the C rating. If the C rating is too low, the battery won't work because it can't handle those amps. Too low a rate, if you charge a battery at too low rate, it will never get it fully charged up. And for some, once again, I can keep you busy for days with just batteries because certain batteries don't want to be stored fully charged. Other batteries wants to be stored fully charged. So lead acid batteries, they like to be fully charged, so it's good to keep them fully charged. If you store lithium batteries, they recommend that you store them at 70% of their charged value. And then, of course, every time you discharge and recharge a battery, you lose one cycle. If you discharge it halfway and you charge it up, you lose half a cycle. Batteries are not 100% efficient, so you might charge 15 amp hours into the battery, but you're going to only get a 10 amp hour out. So that's what they say here, 10 amp hour battery. And that will differ from battery to battery again. Lead acid batteries are particularly inefficient. NiCads are slightly better. Lithium and all the variants, lipo and lithium ion and all those things are far more efficient, and that's what makes them so brilliant, is that they charge so quickly, so they waste so little power in charging up, and that's why they are the battery of choice these days. But they are dangerous and
And your
very.
charge count. Because cycle count is also quite high on lithium compared to all the other chemical ratings as well.
Well, yeah, yeah, they last long, but they are very
Flammable.
particular about, yeah, they want to be charged. They've got what they call a battery management system, BMS, inside. Most of your lithium batteries have got BMS. If it doesn't have a BMS, you'll have to use a very intelligent charger. I've got model helicopters, and your charger actually monitors each cell individually, so that you don't overcharge any one of them. If you do, they swell up, and when the air, oxygen, and lithium meets, you've got a fire. And once it starts, it
You
doesn't
can't put
stop.
it out.
You
You can
can't put
just
it
go and
out.
see videos of people just cutting lithium as a bare metal out and throwing it into water.
That's it. So very dangerous. And that's also why they don't want us to fly lithium batteries into the country. They don't want it on the airplane. We must bring it in as dangerous goods. In summary, a linear power supply supplies used transformers to reduce the mains voltage, rectifiers to convert the AC to DC, and the output filter, including the smoothing capacity, to reduce the ripple to acceptable levels. The power supplies that use half-wave rectification, the ripple is the same frequency as the mains, while in power supplies that uses full-wave rectification, it is at twice the mains frequency. I think Louis did ask that question with the diodes. So in other words, if you've got full bridge rectification, you've got 100 hertz signal out, because you've got 50 hertz, so 20 milliseconds positive, 20 milliseconds negative. And if you convert that through a bridge rectifier, both to positive, you've got 10 milliseconds positive pulses. Well, actually 4 in one cycle. Am I correct now? 1, 2. No, it's 2 in one cycle. Sorry. Voltage regulators serve two purposes: to keep the output voltage constant despite fluctuations on the input side or load current, and to further reduce ripple. That's all true. Integrated circuit voltage regulators may also limit the current and power dissipation by the regulator to safe levels. So that is true. Those LM series, LM78 series regulators, they have current limiting built in, and they've also got heat temperature shutdown, but yet they still pack up. So I would suggest that you don't rely on the safety, and rather design your system so that it works appropriately, and you don't rely on the overheating or the current limiting of the regulator. Switching supplies work by rectifying the mains, and then they switch the transformer at very high frequency. The voltage output is regulated by changing the duty cycle of the switching waveform. So everybody understands what duty cycle is. If we've got a 50% duty cycle, it means that something's just just as much on than what it's off. So if we've got a 10% duty cycle, it means it's on 10% of the time. And of course, 100% duty cycle is that it's on 100% of the time. Now, in a switch mode power supply, you can never get 100% duty cycle because that will give you direct DC on the on the transformer, and it will no longer work. So I think the maximum would be around about 50% duty cycle, but they say here they change the duty cycle, and that's how they regulate the output voltage, which is true. Okay, the transformer is there to isolate the output from the main supply, and that's what we want to always. You never want anything connected directly to mains because that is dangerous. So whenever you use something, most things you buy off the shelf would have the insulation sign. I'm not going to look for it now, but there's a specific sign. It's like two squares inside of each other. And that is the sign on the device that says that it's double insulated from the mains for safety reasons. The frequency switches around 100 kilohertz. Now that changes. Some is 125 kilohertz. Depends on when you calculate your switch mode power supply, you would calculate the most efficient frequency for your transformer, and that is the frequency you switch it at so that you have the minimum losses. So this will vary slightly from power supply to power supply. Advantage of a switching power supply, they are smaller, lighter, and more efficient than linear power supplies. That's all very true. However, poorly designed switching supplies can generate a significant amount of RF interference, and that is where our friends from China come in with their power supplies. Not all power supplies from China are rubbish, but some, especially the cheap stuff that you buy, the cheap lights and the cheap power supplies, these skeleton power supplies, they are just one step away from being dangerous. Storage cells can be combined to form a battery. Cells in series provide higher voltages. Cells in parallel provide more current. Capacity is measured in amp hours or milliamp hours. Charging requires careful monitoring to achieve safety and efficiency and long lifetime. Yeah, that's very important with batteries. If you are interested in batteries, there's a website called the Battery University, and they've got everything about batteries. You can become a battery engineer from that website. Absolute worthwhile reading, because the better you treat your battery, the longer it's going to last. Like my Pajero, I don't drive it every day. I might drive it once a week. So I've got an adapter that I plug it into the solar system, so that keeps it fully charged. The battery is always on charge, because lead acid batteries like to be fully charged. So if you want to kill a lead acid battery, you discharge it to less than 10 volts, and then it's significant damage, and sometimes you lose the entire battery. Some batteries may prove dangerous when subject to incorrect charging. Very important, especially LiPos, lithium polymer, lithium ion batteries. Very important. They want to be charged up to 4.2 volts. 4.3 volt is too high. Maximum discharge, if you discharge them, I think it's less than 3 volts. The electrolyte separation starts, and it increases the internal resistance, and it goes to such a point that you can never recover that battery, and it becomes a scrap. Let's quickly do the, we've really run out of time, but I hope at least people understand. I don't mind using the time as long as people understand. The ripple frequency appearing at the output of an AC-fed power supply is using a full wave rectifier will be, the ripple frequency appearing at the output of an AC-fed power supply using a full wave rectifier will be is daar nog mense daar?
Dit is nog hier.
Sjoe, ek het nou geskrik. Ek dog want Martie het geloop en
God met
so
yourself hierso.
I mean, I won't know when I get lost when the system goes down, but it's good. Okay, to obtain a full wave, het ons daai vraag gedoen, is A, né? Twice the input frequency. To obtain full wave rectification output from a transformer using only 2 diodes. Dis wat ek dink dit was Pieter gewees, center tap. Daar sê lekker. By introducing a smoothing capacitor and a inductor in a power supply output. Output voltage, the voltage will capacitor. Okay.
Delta.
The ripple will be delta. The ripple will be reduced.
That's basically what's the purpose of the
That's
cap.
right, A smoothing circuit using an inductor and a capacitor is a standard. It's not a voltage regulator. Sorry, that's my mouse. Filter. It's a low pass filter. That's correct. A voltage regulator in a power supply can provide reduced ripple at the output. That's right.
Stable output voltage.
Short circuit protection. That's also true.
Oh, all of the above then.
All of the above. That is correct. A Zener diode is used in a power supply to A. Stabilize the reference voltage. Introduce noise to signal.
Dus die proses van eliminasie is wat jou beste vriend in hierdie.
Well, that's it. Yeah. You know what? It's always advisable to read the other answers as well, because sometimes you get all of the above, and then if you just jump to conclusions, you know what they say about jumping to conclusions. Smart battery chargers are recommended because they allow non-rechargeable near. That's nonsense. They charge more rapidly. Maybe they preserve the battery by not exceeding its recommended charge rate.
Ek dink daar verwys hulle na daai Nike ads van jou. So dit moet C
wees.
Dis
reg, ja. So dis definitief C, ja. Preserve the battery. So if you charge a battery at its recommended ratings, it will last a lot longer.
Although B is technically correct, but the most correct one's and C, I would take.
No, B more rapidly.
In certain regards, but it's not the most correct.
No, I would. My feeling. I would go for C. I think C is, like you say, more correct. A battery of a specific voltage can be made by series cells. That's correct, ja. Ek is bly julle kry die vrae reg. Dit beteken ek het die job daarom goed gedoen. As julle die vrae reg antwoord het ek die goeders daarom. Is daar enigiemand wat enigiets nie verstaan nie?
Die vorige wiskunde wat ek gaan moet deurgaan. Die vorige hoofstuk.
Oor daai van die
Ek moet vir myself weer gaan van resistors af weer tot met caps en die hele lot deur gaan.
Jy weet wat nee, ek het
Hierdie.
op skool het ek my gat afgesit. Ek dink ek het die storie I did tell the story. I battled with maths and in primary school some guy sponsored 10 computers. It was just when the IBM came out and I was computer mad at that time and I wanted to be obviously it was a after hours class because I mean there was computer. They got students from the university to come and present a class. And because I was in Pretoria East Primary School, right across from the university and next to Boys High. Anyway, and they told me that I'm too stupid. I can't do computers because my maths points are horrendous. And then much later, I had a lecturer, Mr. Goosen, and that guy changed my life because I think I did tell you about the guy. He doesn't even look who's in the class. He just starts doing the entire calculation from beginning to end. And I actually got a distinction for my maths there. And it's just because the teachers would do half the sum or half the calculation, and then I lose interest and I don't know how to finish the calculation because I've never sitting doing other things in the class. So
It's
yeah,
always the teachers. It's never the info to be learned. I've seen it in my side also in high school even. Same situation.
I mean, from somebody that couldn't do maths at all, I mean, they sent me for IQ tests to see whether I'm maybe really stupid or something. And the IQ tests.
Hulle moes jou net vir ADHD toets gestuur het.
Ek is geklassifiseer en dis ook by Pretoria Oos Laerskool opgeëindig het want ek is positief geïdentifiseer as daai hulle het my op Ritalin ook gesit. Ritalin gesit, ja. En ja, ek weet nie
jy's net bly jy's nie verslaaf aan drugs vandag nie want dis die precursor.
Ja.
Wel, dis die ding.
Ek was so vir julle. Ek was so op konserte, Ritalin en nou is ek op New Vigil.
Ja, so ek het
en dis nie vir daardie redes nie, by the way, maar
dit is gedrink en
ja.
Ek weet nie, ek sê nie niemand het dit nie, maar ek dink as 'n kind stout is
stimulasie vir van die regte onderwyser
want kyk, ek was onhebbelik stout en as daar iemand is wat kon droog maak in die klas, dan is dit ons. Ek bedoel, ons het net eenvoudig die geleentheid gesien om droog te maak in die klas. Maar ja, dis min of meer my storie. So ek glo natuurlik nou dat enige iemand kan wiskunde. Ek sê altyd as 'n oue bal kan vang, kan hy wiskunde doen. Hy weet dit net nie. Want om 'n bal te vang is massive calculations. Ek bedoel, as jy uitwerk wat moet jy met die arc van daai bal, die velocity, jy moet uitwerk waar gaan die bal by jou verbykom, waar moet jy jou hande hou, hoeveel krag moet jy toepas om die bal te stop. So terwyl daai bal trek, werk jy sy gewig uit om te weet hoeveel moet jy insit om hom te stop, want jy gryp hom nie met al jou mag nie, jy gryp hom met net genoeg krag om hom te stop. So ja, dis en dan gaan ons nou Saterdag, ek dink Mart het gesê sy het 'n ding uitgestuur, dis blykbaar 10:00 daarso by die klubhuis. Ek wil net gou hierdie recording stop want ek weet nie of die ouens wat